we're back in the BIOS for another overclocking video. The last one, I got a lot of positive feedback, so I'm gonna make another one. So this one is my own personal PC, and I'm gonna go over some of the settings I chose and go over some of the hardware that I picked out. So just a quick overview of this PC. It is a Intel i7-12700KF. So went with the KF, a little bit cheaper, and I don't need discrete graphics, so I just went with the KF. Also, we have the Asus ROG Strix Z690i motherboard. That is an absolute beast of the motherboard. For the ITX, that is probably, I think it's top of the line I think you can get, and it's gonna show. I'll show you in a little bit here. Man, it's incredible how much power that thing can take. And we have the Asus Tough Gaming RTX 3070 Ti. Those are the main components. Also, this one has DDR5 memory. That memory is good for up to 5600 megahertz. So if you're looking at my screen right now, you see that extreme memory profile, or XMP, is disabled. And that's because DDR5 is different than DDR4, obviously. But for XMP, you just can't enable XMP and you're good to go. If I enable XMP and it sets my RAM frequency to 5600 megahertz, 5600 megahertz, I actually take a performance loss. So I haven't looked at it too much yet, but the default speed that is set in the BIOS is 4800 megahertz. So this whole video is based on the RAM at its stock setting at 4800 megahertz. Still pretty fast. Now I can get 5600, and this motherboard I think can go to 6200 with an overclock. I have to mess with the settings, voltages, and then adjust timings. So I haven't really been focused on that lately, but at some point I'll go in and try to get some more performance out of my RAM, because basically I'm not getting the max speed my RAM can actually do. So for DDR5, we're going to leave XMP disabled. Alright, so first off, we'll get into the settings. So this one's going to be another gaming overclock. This one's pushed a little bit further, and there's still room to grow on this one. I haven't gotten all the performance, obviously, with the RAM frequency or the speed being down already. There's still room to grow. So if you guys are building a small form factor PC and you want to actually shoot for an Asus motherboard like mine, you want to get the max performance you can out of such a small PC, just follow this video, and then pretty much you can just copy my settings. Like I said in my last video, no two CPUs are the same, so there is a silicone lottery. So you might be able to get more performance out of your CPU than I can. You might be able to run the same frequencies I can, but at a lower voltage, and remain stable. Just the luck of the draw. Yeah, let's continue. So we'll start out with this will be a quick overview. So as you can see, my target CPU performance core speed is 5300 megahertz. That's 5300 megahertz. That is set for 2 cores. If we're utilizing 2 cores, it's going to be utilizing 5300 megahertz. I'm not running all 8 physical cores at 5300 megahertz. Definitely not on the small form factor PC on an AIO. That's just not going to happen. And the efficiency cores, those are at 4000. And then our target DRAM frequency, 4800. That's the stock speed that the BIOS has set for us. And then our cache frequency is 3900 megahertz. There is room for adjustments there. Haven't really messed with that that much yet. So typically, if you were on a DDR4 setup here, you just go in here, and then you would have click on one of these XMP profiles, and then it would set your RAM speed, the actual RAM speed that your RAM is. It'll set to that exact speed. But here we're not doing that, so we just set it to auto. All right. Of course, you want to remove all your multi-core enhancements. You don't want any limits holding you back. So you're just going to come down here, and then first thing you'll be adjusting by core usage. So unlike my last video, this one we're actually, due to the motherboard and the DDR5 RAM, I actually can up the the limit ratios here a little bit more. So this one, first 2 cores, 5.3 gigahertz. And then if we're utilizing 4 cores, we're at 5.2. And then if we're utilizing all 8 cores, we're at 5.1 gigahertz. All right. So next up, efficiency cores. Sync all the cores here. 4.0. There, that's not much else to it. I pretty much set all my efficiency cores to 4.0 and all my overclocks. Next up, your Digi Plus voltage regulation module. Click on that. And then I have my LLC, or your load line calibration, set to level 5. It recommends 4, but I set that to 5. That's all you need there. And you come down. So just copy what I'm copying here, or I typed in here. So ring down bit disabled, CPU minimum cache ratio. You can set this to 40, 41, kind of just play around with it. I just had it 39. I probably could go a little bit higher, but I haven't. Next up is your adaptive voltage. You want to make sure that's enabled. You want to make sure that your core cache voltage is in manual mode. And then you want to set your CPU core voltage override to 1.32. Now this is where some people's overclocks might differ from others. Some people might not be able to get or be stable at 1.32 volts with the settings that I have typed in above. Some people might be able to go to 1.290 volts and be stable. I haven't adjusted this too much, but so far 1.32 volts, this computer is completely stable. It passed Cinebench, and you know, Cinebench is one of the most stringent and CPU intensive test programs you can run. And if it passes Cinebench, it's pretty much going to pass like any other CPU test. There are others that are, somebody mentioned in the comments, there's another one I totally forgot, that is even more harder on the CPU. But as far as a good call here, the Cinebench test, if you want to see if your system's going to be stable, it's going to be a good idea to test it on Cinebench, and then that kind of gives you a good idea about the stability for the rest of your CPU tests. And then you go down here. I don't know if we're really adjusting anything else. Just kind of copy all that there. All right. And then the last thing you gotta do is just go to advanced, and then just go to CPU configuration. Come down here, go to CPU management, or excuse me, CPU power management control. Come down to CPU C states, and yeah, basically it kind of gives you a little description here. So enable, disable CPU power management, allows CPU to go to C states when it's not 100% utilized. So it's going to clock it down when you don't need it. That is going to be energy efficient, and your computer doesn't need to be running at its max speed at all times, and you don't need it. It's just going to waste electricity and just put unwanted stress on your system when you don't need it. So I have that enabled, so that actually does that. And that is about it. I don't think I missed anything. Now let's keep in mind here that you know, this is, I kind of stopped here. I can go further and push the CPU, but this CPU has already scored above 18,000 on 3D Mark and Time Spy, which is absolutely fantastic. And the DDR5 memory is definitely the reason why it's in the 18,000s. And of course, if this was on a full water-cooled system, we were on a, we had a CPU block in there and a GPU block, and we had a custom water loop, then yes, we could definitely turn it up even further. But the average person's not doing that, especially in a small form factor PC. So this would be for like the average, you know, user. And like an everyday, I've used this actual overclock every day. So this isn't like a glory run settings in the BIOS that we've done. You can actually use these settings for all everyday games. I've tested a few different games, and we have had absolutely no stability issues. I'm in a very large closet that I converted into a game room, and we don't have much ventilation. I have some fans, but I ran some tests with no ventilation. I wanted to see how this computer would do with, you know, a heat load. Say like somebody is in the desert or like a really warm area, say like down south, or, you know, and it's really hot, and, you know, they don't have much ventilation. Can their, you know, how are their overclocks do? They're gonna hit a temperature limit here, and so that's kind of how I wanted to do the test. But it passed everything. So hopefully this one helps you guys too. I know the last one I did helped a lot of people, and yeah, small form factor PC seems to be a popular thing now. People want the performance, but they want it in a smaller case. And this is my first one I built, and I have another video I can link at the end here, and I can also link the overclock video on kind of my mindset on how I set up everything to provide the maximum cooling for this setup here. Yeah, so I'll link that at the end there, and definitely the other overclock video as well. Some people had great luck with that last overclock in. Let's hope that people can have good luck with this one as well. Alright, lastly, just to finish off this video, here's a screenshot of the score that I got in Time Spy on 3D Mark for the overclock I just went through. So up here we have the graphics score of 15,999. That is about the highest I got that was stable for gaming. Yes, I could push it further, but this is just for I want this to be for the average, you know, gaming overclock for someone who has a 3070 Ti. This is typically what you can expect with a good overclock without pushing the GPU to its limits. And then the CPU score, 18,100. Thank you, DDR5 memory. That is the reason why I'm this high. Definitely a lot of room for improvement. We can definitely get a lot higher than this, but I just stopped here. You know, this was, you know, just 2 or 3 tests on 3D Mark. We got to 18,000. I just stopped. I mean, I can definitely push it further. There's a lot more room for the RAM to get faster, and then can push our score up. So I'm gonna come back and we'll mess around with the RAM, get it you know, running nicely at 5600, but, you know, adjust the timings and the voltages appropriately, so we're not taking a performance loss when we actually enable XMP. So this puts us at the 90th percentile of all people that compete in this test. Now, this isn't 90% better than every computer in the world. This is just only 90% better than all people that compete in this this particular Time Spy test in 3D Mark, which is pretty good. What's holding us back is definitely the GPU. I've gotten into the 99th percentile in other builds. My last actual personal PC that my buddy bought was in the 99th percentile, and that's because I had a water-cooled 3080 Ti, and this one is not even close to that. But this is just this is my daily driver 1440p build, so absolutely fantastic. 90% is still great, but it's obviously not the best I've ever done. But yes, that's about it, guys. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.